In the meantime, things are slacking off. I'm out now. I came out 65 now. This will be about 1966, a little later maybe. Now, they're slacking off now with the passports and things going across England, because the British are looking for all kinds of workers now building up, because there's a bomb down. They don't know where with the passports going across to England. Don't know where with the passport. So I went up and I went out to Dunleary, and whatever happened, I found out all about this. I went over across to Dunleary at that time. And this is the first thing that I saw, the first time that I thought was very peculiar. I thought this was very peculiar, what happened to me on that ship that night going over. I thought it was very peculiar. There was two girls standing right over there. And I'm talking to this priest that's going across the England, young priest. Just the next thing he's making out with one of the girls. And I thought...
That's not with him.
Well, you know, nowadays she's different things. But I couldn't get over it now. You see, that to me, that I couldn't get over that now. So, we got away from that. We got over, went over across. So I says, whatever happens now, construction is not for me anymore. No more construction.
Your acting career was not...
No, the acting career kind of faded too. But I went to the place, to the Russell Square. There's a place in London called Russell Square. And there's the Russell Hotel. And I went and I looked for a job at the Russell Hotel. I was very thin, handy young fella. I got a job there. So they hired me. They hired me in the Russell Hotel. In them hotels that time, they had their own pastry chef. They had a pastry chef. They had their own places where they used to make all the pastry and all the other desserts that they'd have. Everything was made in that section. So there was an elderly woman. She had a pastry. She had in the hotel. She was making all the things. So I got a job working for her, mixing the dough and whatever, you know. And then in the evening, my job would be, I'd be up at the dining room table, at the service table, and when an order come for, say, whatever, that the order came for, whatever kind of dessert they wanted, I'm the fella that would.
I'm sorry, I have to take that because there's somebody back and I'm not doing too good.
Fix up the tide has to go somewhere, so we'll keep going anyway.
Yeah, that's the way, Johnny.
But anyway, the next thing that happened was I gave the dessert, the order came for it, I gave it out or nothing. So I was there for maybe 6 or 8 weeks, and at the Russell Hotel they put up their workers. They had a place where all their staff there. In the next block over down, they had a place, and there was an Irish fellow in charge of it there, and he was of course cousin to the school teacher there, and this man was from Kinmare.
So
he was a security guard at the living quarters for the staff of the Russell Hotel. I was there for a bit, and that got on my nerves. I took off out of there, and I head down for Dock Street. Dock Street is in London. Dock Street, it's in. It's there. I brought my Seaman's book with me. Tilbury Docks. I'm a different fella now. I'm a different man altogether. I'm a fella now that don't give a rattling damn about anything. No matter what comes now, I'm getting out of England and I'm going somewhere. I'm taking off out of here. I'm going to do something else. So I go into Dock Street, and there's an Irish guy. We always meet an Irish guy. He was from Tralee. He was a seaman. I was talking to him. But this fella, and he happened to be. This fella, he happened to be Kelly. He happened to be Jim Kelly. He was at Belfast. He had a seaman's book. And he had what they call an R&R. An R&R in the seaman's book, it means that declined to report, that you got drunk or you didn't show up or something, and he couldn't get a job in a big ship. He got a job on these coastal ships, these tankers or whatever. So he sold me the book. I bought the book off of Kelly. And the name of the ship that he got the job on was called the Stratton Lee. That was the first tub I was ever on, the Stratton Lee. It was a coal burner. The steam was made from coal. I was never in a ship in my life. I never saw a ship. I was from Athea and I had no recourse for the sea or nothing. So I was at a complete loss. But I was determined to get out of England and go somewhere. So Kelly went down to the ship with me because he was the man that had the job, but he didn't say who he was. They thought I was Kelly, and he was telling me, this is what you have to remember. Just remember this. Pitch, patch, slice and rake. He says, can you remember that? I says, Kelly, I remember that. He says, you pitch the coal into the furnace, the flame comes up, you patch it, then you get the rake and you rake it, and then you shove this big bar in and you slice it to give it air. And pitch, patch, slice and rake. There's where I got my first job. So I went, she started out and she was going over across to Hamburg from Tilbury Dock, going over across to Hamburg. And what that ship used to do that time, bringing scrap iron, all the scrap iron. You see, after the war, everything was knocked down in Germany and everything. So they had all kinds of scrap and bringing the scrap over to England. Do you understand me?
Yes.
So it was bringing the scrap over. But the first night, I went on my pitch, patch, slice and rake. I seemingly did all right. But did you ever hear the likes of it? The seamen got seasick. Now I'm in trouble. Do you understand me? And I says, friggin' I don't give a damn whether I do or not. Now there was 3 firemen, the small fit job, 3 firemen. A Maltese guy from Malta, a Polish guy that couldn't speak Maltese, and the Maltese couldn't speak Polish, and an Irishman that couldn't stand any of the two. This is the crew, okay, down below. Okay, you see, this is true stories. Because Tig, you introduced, this is my life. Anyway. I went back, they said it, the captain said, I was called before the captain, or somebody, drunk, he was drunk. He didn't I didn't know I was seasick, I was drunk, you understand me? But I was so good, I got so good at that I remember going into port one time. I was with him for 6 or 7 weeks. I went in one time and I went up looking for a sub, we call it a sub, when we'd be going into the thing. The only man that's getting the sub is the Irishman. Always shut up.
Yeah.
See, it couldn't beat it. I was there all the time. Now, there's always trickery and movements, you see. So, coffee was very scarce in Germany, and the Germans loved their coffee. Okay? Silk stockings were very scarce in England, and the English girls loved their stockings.
I can see where this is going.
Do you see where I'm going? So this fella, we was pull into Hamburg, and that's the River Elbe. So where we used to go at the other side, said we go from here down to the road, down to the 147th Street, from here to 147th Street. He was the mate, he was an Irish guy. a seaman from Cove or somewhere. He made a coffin boat. He made a small boat, flat. Pitch. He bought the pitch and everything. He made it, and it was a box. It was a box. Two of a crew, the Cork guy and me, with the stockings. My job, I had the job in the boat. My job, I had a can, keeping the water, pulling it out. Any water that leak in, keeping it out. He was paddling till we got over to the other side. Okay. We used to take the captain's coffee and everything, sell everything. We sell it up. We go into this tavern. We had our clients, you know what I mean. But I brought my sister. I had a sister in England. I brought Kitty back all kinds of stockings. We never saw this. I don't know what they call this stocking. There was a special name for one kind of stocking. But anyway, that was going on for a long time. So I was there. I was doing that for a couple of months. So I got tired again. Got to get out of here. How am I going to get out of here now, though? My name is Jim Kelly now, you see. Just can't forget, you see, Jim Kelly. I can't get out of here and go to the ship, go to the Union Hall and get a job. I can't do that. So that's what kept me in it so long. So I got fed up, and I got off this day. And the captain's got all my life seemingly. My life was designed. I figured this out, because when I finish, you'll find out. When I was going out, I left walking out of that ship that day, with no intention of going back. This is as true as we're sitting here. I had no intention of going back. And the captain happened to be coming along. He was an Irishman, but I had never any talk with him because he was young. Boy, the captain. So you're going up, and he's walking along. And I stopped him. I said, he says, he's going out to sign on the article. I says, Captain, I said, he says, you coming back the next trip? I says, I don't think so. I says, I don't think so. He says, why? I says, my name is not Jim Kelly. He says, oh, Jesus, I'm ruined. That's what he said. Yeah. I'm ruined. Do you understand? I says, no, Captain, you're not ruined. You're not ruined. I said, you go that way. I said, I go this way. I said, we never met. I said, I go this way. Believe me, you trust me, you'll never hear from me. He says to me, do you want a seaman's book? I said, yeah. I said, but I don't want to be arrested or anything. He said, come on with me. He went into the shipping office. He says, we're sitting down here. Went into the shipping office. He says, the clerk, there was a clerk, signing new articles. You see, they have to sign new articles after so long. The articles, the deep sea ships have to sign an article every time they go leave port and come back. But on the coastal jobs, maybe every 3 months or 4 months, whatever, they'd sign the articles, shipping articles. He says, I want to sign this man on. He says, he turned around to me. He didn't know what he was with me either. No, he says, give him your name. He says, you tell him who you are. He says, sign him on. So I give my name. That was all there to it. The guy gave me the book. I got my book right there. I have that book over there. I'm a legitimate seaman right now, John Hunt.
You're not like Here
or now! I'm gone! Do you understand me? Now I'm for the big time. Okay? I'm going to be for the big time.
You're legit now.
Oh, yeah. So I stayed with him for about 3 or 4 weeks after that. And the next thing, I took off and went to the shipping office in the Union office in Tilbury Docks. That was where the book was out of. That was where Kelly was, that was the original book. We used to come into Hull. I went and got on another ship, an old. So I'll start off. I wrote down today the names of the ships that I was on. I don't usually need to have notes. I don't have to. I'm a fella that my memory is always good. I don't need to have notes.
I don't mind your wallet.
No, I was going to pass it over the original, but I decided, oh Jesus, no. So these are the names of the ship I've got. I'll give you the story on them. The first ship was the Stratton Lee. I told you about that.
Yeah.
And then we have the H&H, which means there was an outfit in Scotland that had a shipping office called Hungry Hogart. Hungry Hogart, that's what we call it. H&H with the funnel. And then there was the Beaver Glen, that was going on to Canada. And then there was the mail boat on the Hague. I was going to the Hague over to the... And then there was... we struck a mine. I was blown up on a ship. But I'll get to that. I'll get to that. But I'm only telling you that this is... So the first ship I get on, I think, was Hungry Hogart. So I'm graduating now. We must remember now, Willie Joe Casey will know better than anybody here, maybe in the room now, of what I'm going to say next is this, that I graduate now from a coal burner into an oil burner. You see, I got tired of the construction, now I'm getting tired of the shoveling of the coal, okay? So I'm going to move up now, I'm going to go now to the oil burner, okay? So, in an oil burner, as Willie Joe Casey will know, you have the burner itself, and then you have what's known as an atomizer that sits into the mouth of the burner, and it's put on with a nut. Screwed on to the burner, and there are small little holes where the oil comes out to, like an atom out to
Pressurising to spread out.
The pressure is goes into the. So on this ship that I was on, and the first ship that I was on, there was three firemen. You did 4 hours. You did 4 hours on and 8 hours off. Do you understand?
Right.
8 hours on. What you had to do was clean one burner. And that's all you had to do, clean one burner. The next man that came on cleaned another burner. The next man that came on cleaned another burner. So you had 3 watches. So the 3 furnaces were taken care of. You had a fresh burner on every watch. Every watch. Characters, all kinds of characters. Going into it, so Hungry Hogart, I think, what we were hauling out was a little port in Spain called Almeria. Almeria, I'll never forget it. Iron ore, the mountains. They bring the iron ore down, put the iron ore into the hold of the ship. It was all blown in. It was all dust, iron ore. And I remember we had no money, but this time waiting for, we always had money, but they wouldn't give us some sometimes. But this fella, he was a cook, and he used to always get the stuff, the food and everything. So he was going to sell some of the food, you know what I mean? He was going to sell some of the food, but he was very smart about how he did it. He didn't take the pound of butter and pound of cheese and things and that to sell it in Spain. What he did was this. They used to, the lamb chops was coming and everything. The whole sheep had come. So he took the sheep out and he tied it to the guy rope and slid the sheep down. The sheep went down. It's just hard to believe this. The sheep went down the guy rope to the dock. Me and the guy went down to the dock and took the sheep up and sold the sheep in the pub. But you know, a dead lamb, it was what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's the way, but that was the first thing I met Almeria. So, the waterfront is a funny place. Waterfront is rough. You have to be very rough because a lot of, I hate to use the word because I was part of it myself, dregs of society hits the waterfront. All the wash go to the waterfront. If you want to know where a seaman is in the waterfront, you don't go to the shipping office or you don't go nowhere. You go to one of the women in the waterfront and you say, "Hi, do you know where James York is?" She'll be able to tell you what ship he's coming off of and how much money he's going to have. You know what I mean? That's where the saying comes from. Seaman has a wife in every port. You see? Seaman has a wife. I'm going to keep myself I can go very low here now, but I'm going to keep on the higher level.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy.
This is not true confessions, John. You can tell it your own way.
You know what I mean? But I had I knew a lot of these girls too. As a matter of fact, one time, I think I was telling Bridget to swear.
Bridget, you went to
I think Bridget was questioning me one time. I'm in Yokohama, Japan, and I'm walking up the street one day and I see a seaman coming down and he has a pillow and he has no shoes on him. He's barefoot coming down the street. And I says to him, "Jesus," I says, "what happened here?" He says, "That bitch," he says, "she stole my shoes, but I have all her money." I think I'll keep it higher now. But anyway. But you know something, in Germany another time we were in the ship that I was on, we struck a mine. I was on a ship that was blown up. We were blown completely out the water. I saw my father and mother, and I saw the local tailor in the village at home, Tailor Shine. I saw them all in front of me in a flash like that.
But you didn't see the girl from Japan that you stole her money.
I didn't see one. But what I do here, this one with you. This one with you. Do you see the box over there behind that? I had my leg up in a valve, okay? And it was 7:45 in the morning. And we always, no matter what way the steam went during the night, during the watch, you didn't worry too much about it. But you always had a full head of steam on when the watch was coming on in the morning. When the new watch was coming on, he had a full head of steam. You had a full head of steam. And I'll never forget it. It was 7:45 in the morning. I had my leg up in the valve, and I put my hand up in the valve to try to bring up the steam. And Christ, the very minute I had my hand in that valve, we struck the mine. Now you can say to me, you can ask me a question, how come you were in a ship that struck a mine after the war? They had all the coast, all the French coast was all mined. And a magnetic mine broke loose, this is what we had, you know, broke loose from its mooring. And it was a magnetic mine, and the propeller of the ship set the mine off. Now, with the force of the explosion, the way it hit, it went off, it blew the ship, it put no hole in the ship, but it lifted the ship completely out the water and disrupted everything, broke everything apart. Everything apart. We're floating around there for 3 days. 3 days, I say, we're floating around there. Several ships tried to hang on to us, but the captain would shout, dead shout, I'll never forget it, out through the night you'd hear him, "Shall we make connection, Captain? Shall we make connection?" And he'd shout, "No connection, no connection." Because they were trying to take our ship, you know, to take it in, and a ship that at sea you can take it in, you know.
And then you keep all the stuff?
Yeah. But we had no wireless, no nothing. Everything was gone. Everything was completely gone. So, he told us all, Armour. I had a little axe, and it was about that size. It wouldn't cut that butter there. And my job was that if anybody tried, the same way with everyone, well, in case it's the same way, if anybody tried to tie on to us, cut the rope, okay? Cut the tie. So, whatever way he made connection, after about 2 days floating around, 2 American deep sea tugs, big giant tugs, they pulled up alongside us. One at the starboard side, one at the port side. They tied on to us. But before that, I think it was a Norwegian ship pulled up, a Norwegian tugboat pulled up, but he wouldn't let her tie on. But there was one man got hurted, and they took him off of the ship, and it was the best piece of work I ever saw happening at sea. It was the best. They had this telescopic ladder, and they sent the ladder up, straight up like that, look. And they brought it down like that, and made a gangway right over to our ship, and they were able to take the hurted man off and take him away.
Well,
That's it.
But when we were taken, they tied two boats, one port side, one starboard side, they solid against our ship. And then they put one in front, and the guy in front pulled them along, and these guys balanced us. And they took us into Wilhelmshaven. And it was the night, this is one of the best, I was in many a good engineering job. The Alaska pipeline was a good engineering job. But the engineering job that I saw done this thing, it was done by the Germans. The tugboat in front pulled us in, and these two tugboats that alongside us like that, they got us in close to where they wanted us. And when everything was settled with us, and when they had us set, when they had out a big ship, we were on a big ship now. I think she was Hungry World. The tugboat in the front one that was torn us, broke loose and took off. These two here, they were ripped and they broke loose and took off. We're sitting here now, and all of a sudden, up by the side of our ship comes this wall. Up by the side, the other side, out of the water, another wall. Comes up in the back, a floating dry dock. Germans. They had our ship. When the wall came up at this side, and the wall came up at that side, an arm came out like that and on the side of our ship, and balanced our ship right inside in the middle of it, like that. They opened up their pumps, pumped every drop of water out of there. We're sitting inside in a dry dock, Germans. You know what the British did after that? They blew it up. They didn't know how to handle it. The British destroyed that dry dock. But we were in there, and we were able to stay we got our meals. We were able to stay in the ship while they were fixing it. They fixed it up. It was dented where the mine, you know what I mean, forced the mine. But anyway, that was one of my. Now.
Before John carries on there now, at that time during 46 and 47 there was floating mines on after the war, because they came across the Atlantic and they came across from Normandy and they floated into Ballyhaig Bay and places like that. And we as young fellas, when the American ships were sunk, they used to like platforms of sea rations come in, and inside the sea rations there were about 12 inches by 4 by 4. Inside of that you had small tablets, you had packs of American cigarettes, Campbell's and Chesterfield, you had crackers, you had a small tin of corned beef inside of this. So I know what John is talking about with the mines, because the mines were this big around, they came floating and we didn't know what they were.
Oh yeah.
Live mines.
Oh, but you know, another time I met a guy we all read about this, or ye all read, but I happened to go through it. Lawrence of Arabia.
Yes.
I was in the Casbah in Algiers. I was up in the Casbah in Algiers, I was in a, I don't want to say what I was. I was in the dentist office.
Did you get any filling?
Let's leave it at that. In the dentist office.
So he left Williamhaven now and you landed over to Algiers.
No. Where we know we were
Well,
after
things in the
we
wall.
gone up on the ship now. I have to get when that ship pulled in now. I have to get another one. You see, I pull that in. Now I'm a freelance. You see, you see, as I told you before, John Hunt is no longer controlled by anybody. Nobody's
John Hunt's mother used to always say that you were as wild as the band
Yeah.
of Borneo.
Yeah.
You decided you were going to set off there as well at one point.
Yeah, I was there. The wild man from Borneo. Do you know the funny thing about that? Do you know the name of that place right now in Borneo? There was the first place I ever saw the snake charmer working. I'll never forget him. I'll never forget him. He